Several years ago, precisely 12 years ago, when I had the leading of God to move into the ministry, and one of the cardinal desire that I had at that particular time was to meet somebody that was actually going to mentor me, particularly somebody that is operating within the sphere of what God has called me to do. And it wasn't long, the Lord answered my prayer. I had a rare privilege to meet this leopard of God, a senior colleague in the prophetic ministry, gifted and unusually graced. Here is the story. He was so committed to the things of God, committed by every stretch of what commitment can actually be. Committed to the kingdom service. He was committed to the assignment, the mandate of God upon his life. He was giving expression to it. He had a church and he also had a platform to conduct program and service on the mountain. Of course, this is Southwest Nigeria. You would appreciate that we had the rare opportunity of having several prayer mountains. So he was always running program on all of those mountains. But it came to a point, he was attending to people, was conducting crusades, he was having counseling sections as it were. But of course, you know the saints of God. They were never going to be tired in seeing the prophet of God. So he was attending to them, he was telling them the mind of God. In fact, in one of those prayer meetings I had with him, he told me that day would never come in his ministry, that he would have in excess of hundreds of people wanting to know the mind of God. He won't be able to tell each person accurately with precision what the mind of God in it. It wasn't boasting. And if you call it boasting, Paul or call it boasted. It came to a point that it was so exhausted. It was so exhausted, and the people were still pressing on him on the mountain to attend to them. While it got so consumed and subsumed ministerial duty, as it were, to which he was called on. No crime in that particularly, but only that every mortal should know that there is a limit to what the body can carry. Back to the story, he was attending to people and he was losing energy. He was getting exhausted. Some other senior colleagues of his contemporaries were charging him to get up the mountain, to come to Lagos, to come and actually give himself a proper medical rest, as it were, a medical attention. He wasn't going to board. He was still attending to them, was praying, he was doing counseling, and people were moving up the mountain. The moment they knew that this personality was on the mountain, people would throng him from all walks of life, as it were. He was that graced. Having gotten to a point where he literally knew that life was ebbing out of him, then he decided to leave the mountain. In fact, before this particular decision of his to move on the mountain, his wife from Lagos has also started calling, please come home, come and take care of yourself. You can always get back to the mountain and all of that at all. It was consequent upon all of this plea and the concerns of his friends and colleagues within that particular time, he eventually stepped out of the mountain. Now he got to Lagos. I had heard that it was in Lagos, so I was planning to also go same, maybe like 48 hours. Hopefully that those 2 days as it were, would be enough for him to rest. Of course, he got home and he took his rest, and he told his wife that he was going to take a nap, after which he was actually going to get a medical attention, as it were. It was shocking to all of us that the little nap he took, he never woke up. He died. Sadly, he died. I lost the rare opportunity to have been mentored by somebody I admire so much. My assignment was as his necessary. I craved for somebody that had so much unusual grace and that had the corresponding discipline to match it. He died. Here are my submissions. It was not the witchcraft or the problem, as it were, of the people that he was attending to that killed him. He violated one of the laws of life, one of the laws of nature. It is called the law of rest. He died before his time. He died without fulfilling the totality, I want to believe, the totality of all the assignment, because I had the rare privilege of having to sit with him, and he had also told me the things that God still wanted him to do. He died. He violated the law of rest. Rest is not an adversary, as it were. I said again, rest is not an adversary that is subject to our whims. Rest is a mandate and a commandment from God. A violation of this commandment, it's an offense that is punishable by a life on the sickbed, or a life confined to a wheelchair, or maybe a premature death. And like for us to understand that, I believe strongly that God understands the challenges that we face every day in our life. Deadlines, schedules in corporate world, the responsibility at the home front is very daunting. parenting, and all of this entrepreneuring. We have a target, we have aspirations, and we push ourselves to always wanting to get to this point. I want to believe strongly that these are one of the many reasons why God made rest a commandment. It is not subject to our interpretation. It is a commandment. And anybody that violates the law of rest has actually sinned. Is that me? If you do not rest, you will be late to rest. Rest is part of productivity. Rest is a component of productivity. Now, let me let you know. Even the machines and our equipment, they are designed to be able to make life, as it were, a lot easier. They are designed with a caution. In other words, they are designed with a particular duration of the operation, and that when their operation gets to this particular maximum operation, they are expected to do what is called scheduled maintenance. That is, if equipment, metals, can be so designed with a rest, as it were, in mind, then human beings, we need to understand the fact that our life is encumbered with so much task and responsibility. Every day of our life, we are confronted with stresses. We are confronted with things that we can classify as stressors. We need to be deliberate about making time for us to rest. If the God that makes the heaven and earth rested after the 6th day of labor, a mere mortal would want to violate this? No. So God rested out of his labor. So God exemplifies it for us, so for us to understand the importance of rest. And what is rest? It's just a temporary cessation from work, task, or responsibility for the purpose of relieving our body and our system from fatigue and stress. As simple as that. A temporary cessation from responsibility, from task, for the purpose of relieving our life from fatigue. Every human being has a breaking point. You don't want to stretch your life to a point where you then begin to manage the rest of your life based on medical prescription, and as it were. We need for us to understand, if we desire more productivity, rest is a component of productivity. Now, several years ago, I remember when I was still in telco, well, many companies that are not Nigerian owned, as it were practicing a very obnoxious culture at some point. When it is time for you to go on your vacation, they will call you and bargain with you how they can actually monetize your holiday for you. In other words, you collect your leave allowance, and you also collect a money by the reason of the fact that you were meant to go to leave and you did not go. There's nothing that cannot be insensitive by employers. If you will understand that rest, as it were, is a component of productivity, no policy of such should be allowed in any work environment. Rest for us is something that relieves our life from tension. A life that deliberately, consciously, and intentionally plans moment of rest is a life that is planning longevity, is a life that is deliberating to live his life to the fullest. When money, or as it were, material acquisition is the center point of your existence, there's a tendency for you to mortgage the hours that you ordinarily should spend to rest or to spend with loved ones for the purpose of having the material acquisition or money. May I let you know that life is beyond material acquisition. Life is beyond mortgaging the time of your rest. Now, maybe it is not in our culture as blacks, as it were, to rest or to plan for holidays. And necessarily, you don't need all the fortunes in this world to plan your holiday. There are best vacation spots. All you need to do, by rule of thumb, is to deliberately walk out of the regimented areas to which you have been accustomed to for a particular point. Take a moment, take a breather, walk away, quote unquote, away from such environment to be able to relieve your mind. Catch the new splendor of the environment. You will be shocked at how your energy will be revitalized. You will be shocked at how your internal strength will come alive. Even in the world of creativity, there's nothing as motivating as when you separate. In other words, when you have a moment of where you are all by yourself alone, Those are the points where the best of ideas and inspiration come. Even with our Maker, the best of answered prayers, the moment where we get feedback, as it were, signals from heaven. There are moments when we separate ourselves in a moment of rest. Scripture says, when deep sleep cometh unto man, the Lord openeth his ears and he seals it with instruction. When deep sleep, you have to be in deep sleep. You have to be in a rest, in a place of a good rest, even before your spirit can be connected even to God, to hear and express instruction or a direction that you've been craving for to move your life forward. So rest is very key. Rest is important. If you must live your life to the fullest, don't get to the point where you mortgage your rest for anything in this world.